Bentley's mom. We're going to do chapter 12, lesson 4, the shape of data distributions. So basically what we're doing is we're doing what we did the last couple days, but we're learning how to describe the shape basically. So there's a few vocabulary words that you need to know to do this. One is called symmetry, and symmetry is when like one side is equal to the other side around a point. Like a butterfly has symmetry kind of down the middle of its body, so like the right side looks like the left side. A gap is where there's a space and there's no data. Clusters are where data, or these X's here, are grouped together. And then the peak is the one that has the most, and then the outlier is the one that's nowhere near the rest of the data set. So let's look at number 1, example 1. Here's the data. Okay, they give this to you in this plot. You see the X's here. So we're just going to describe the shape. So first of all, let's see if there's symmetry. So if you look and see if there's symmetry of this, it says, this is example 1 on page 892. There is no symmetry here. These are kind of different, so we're just going to say no. Okay, symmetry would be like more where there's not a gap here, where there's a big one here, and then there's equal ones kind of going down, so it looks symmetrical. This is kind of, there's a gap here, there's some here, there's more over here. It's kind of all over the place. So we're going to say there's no symmetry. Now, a gap, there's absolutely a gap. The gap looks like it's from 19 to 21. So we'll just write from 19 to 21. So yes, there's a gap. And then clusters, we have a cluster from 16 to 18. Again, this is where just the data is grouped. There's data here. And then there's the gap. And then there's another cluster from 22 to 25. Okay, and then the peak is where it peaks. It's the highest. So that would be at 22, because there's 4 here. So 22. And then is there an outlier here? Is there a piece of data, what do you think, Bentley, that's lying way over here or way over here, that's way distant from these?
It doesn't really look like there's
No,
one.
there's not. There's not. Okay? So that's what you use just to describe the data. And you can, write this how I did, or you can write it in sentences. You can say, there's no symmetry, there's a gap between 19 through 21. It's just asking you to describe the shape of how the data is distributed in the graph. Okay, now number 2, this was a line plot. Now we're going to do a box and whiskers. So this is what they give you, and we have to describe it. Now with the box and whisker, in here, you're not going to be able to identify gaps or peaks or clusters. And so you can't really do any of that. Now the symmetry, what that's basically asking you is, does the right side, if we kind of went through the median, and my drawing's not the greatest here, but does the right side kind of look like the left side? So in this case, yes, there's symmetry. Okay, so this is pretty equally distributed, and if you look at your paper, you can see that the right side of the graph looks a lot like the left side of the graph. And then are there any outliers here? Are there any points that are just sitting not in the plot? No. So you would say there are no outliers. Okay? And that's just how you can describe the data. Okay? So turn to example 3. So we're not necessarily doing any math so far. We're just looking at it, be able to describe the shape of the distribution using those vocabulary words. Okay, so it's mostly, in this case, in this section, there's a lot of vocabulary to it. Okay, now here's another example. Here's a line plot. And this is number 3, and it shows the number of states visited by students in a class. So we're going to go from 10 to 20. So 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay, and then we have 3 on 10. 1, 2, 3. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on 11. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on 12. We have 3 on 13. 1 on 14. And then we have 1 way over here on 19. Okay, so we're going to describe this data. Now, in this case, we are going to choose between the mean and the median. So sometimes, what it's asking you is it best to use the mean or median? Now, you want to use the mean when it's the data symmetrical, and you want to use the median when it's not symmetrical, okay, or when there are outliers. So it says choose the appropriate measure to describe the center and spread of the distribution. Justify your response based on the shape of the distribution. So I would say, you can say something like, because this is not symmetrical, do you see how there's a bunch of data over here, and then there's an outlier over here, there's a big gap? Okay, so because of that, I'm going to use the median.